What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today we're going to take a look at the Senate races, and I'm going to show you guys how in 2 years Social Security could change, and it won't change for the better. So we're going to take a look at the Senate races. I'm going to tell you the races that are close right now, and then we're going to follow this through. I'm going to be doing videos on this, at least one per week. I might start doing more. If you guys really like this content, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification, do all that good stuff, because if you're showing me that you like this type of content, I will put out more in the future. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first off, on this channel, we talk about money and retirement. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe and hit that little bell notification. That way you get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so I realize I just told you guys to subscribe twice, so I'm not going to say it anymore. But when it comes down to it, the way that you guys can show your appreciation for the videos that I put out is by hitting the like button. That's the best way to do it, because I see that and then I'll know, okay, you know what? I should do more content like this. So we are going to follow these races. Now, right now, there's only really 5 races that are pretty close, and those are the ones that we're going to be tracking. And then if we see some other races start to get closer as it gets closer to November, then we'll bring those races in as well and talk a little bit about those. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're looking at right here, and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm doing here, so you'll understand, because this might look a little confusing. It might be a bunch of stuff in front of you. You guys are thinking, what does all this stuff mean? And so we're going to talk a little bit about what it means. So right now we're looking at 35 races. Okay, so there's a total of 35 Senate races. When it comes to the senators, it's about a third of the Senate is running for re-election at a time. So every 2 years, that's what you're looking at. So you don't have all the senators running for re-election like you do in the House. The House, everyone runs for a re-election every 2 years. So let's go ahead and take a look at the races that are pretty much solid races. It's going to be solid Democrat, solid Republican. That's pretty much the way that we're looking at it right now. Now, this can change. This can change in the future. We might see some of these races tighten up, and as we see them tighten up, then I'll bring those down, and we'll talk a little bit more about those. But just looking at the races right now, when it comes down to it, these are the solid races in the Democratic, we'll just say in the Democratic camp, or the Democratic side. So these are the solid races: California, New York, Oregon, Illinois, Vermont. So we have races all over the U.S., and these are pretty solid Democrat. Now this is leaning. These are both leaning Democrat. Okay, so New Hampshire and Colorado, they lean Democrat. Now let's move over to Republicans. Okay, so we're going to look at the Republican races. All of these races here, these are all strongly favored for the Republican to win. Okay, and then we have some favored races here: Ohio, North Carolina, Florida. Okay, now you might be looking at this and saying, well, why do we have so many Republicans running and we don't have as many Democrats running? And that's true. That's the way it breaks down. Like I said, every 2 years, you're going to have, it's going to rotate. So not all of the senators are running at the same time. And this is just the breakdown that we're looking at right now. Now, this middle here, this yellow, these are all the toss-ups. These are the tight races that we're looking at right now. We're going to go over those in more detail. But I just kind of wanted to give you guys an overall view of what is going on when it comes to these Senate races. Now, the Senate, the Republicans have more to lose, if you want to look at it like that, because they have a total of 21 seats that they're fighting for, basically. They need to hold 21 seats, okay? The Democrats, they need to hold, 14 seats. And so that is the breakdown. Out of the 35 seats that are available, Republicans have to hold more seats. Now, they're doing a pretty good job. As you see, all the red here, this is showing that they have a solid grasp on these states here and these races. And when it comes to the Democrats don't have as many seats to win, but they do have a solid grasp on a lot of seats as well. Now, when it comes to the up in the air seats, the reason that I put them kind of like this, the Democrats have these seats right now, okay? The Republicans have these seats right now. So you can see with the breakdown of 5, the Democrats have 3 seats that are toss-ups. the Republicans have 2 seats that are toss-ups. Okay, now and when I say that, I mean it could go either way. Obviously, a toss-up can go either way, but when we're looking at the breakdown, that's how it plays out. Now let's move down a little bit because I want to show you guys some of the information that we have so far when it comes to the polls, okay? Because that's all we can really look at right now are the polls. The polls are going to tell us pretty much the information that we need at this point. So let's zoom in. I want to zoom in on Nevada here, and let's zoom in just a little bit closer here so you guys can really see what's going on and read what's going on here. So when it comes to Nevada, we have Cortez Masto, and she is, and I'm using Real Clear Politics. The reason that I use Real Clear Politics is because they'll do an average of all the polls. So they're not just going to take each poll and say, okay, this poll says this poll says that. They will average out the polls, so you really get a pretty solid number when it comes to the polls, because polls can go either way, and you'll see this in some of the races. You'll see that the polls are one poll is showing one thing and the other poll is showing something else. And so how do you know which poll is right? Well, Real Clear Politics, they will average out these polls for us, so that's good. Okay, so looking at some of the different polls here, we have let's see. So we have 3 different polls that are out there. And Lexalt, I think I'm saying his name right. I'm not even sure. But when it comes down to it, let me get a pin here. It'll be a little easier for you guys to see this. So with the 3 polls, we have Cortez. She's up in 2 of the polls. And then we have Lexalt. He's up in 1 of the polls. Okay, so he's up +3 in 1 poll. Cortez is up +1 in 1 poll, and then +7 in another poll. Now, if you want to know more information, this is really interesting too. And let's zoom in just a little bit closer. Okay, that's as close as I can get. But when we're looking at the polls, this is interesting because they will give you the breakdown of who they surveyed for the polls. So this poll here, this Reno Gazette. They had what? Registered voters, 500 registered voters. Okay, that's who they asked. So that was the +7 for Cortez. And then up here, this poll up top, you have likely voters. That's what LV means, likely voters, and that's 1,332. And then likely voters here in this poll in the middle, and that's 1,082. Okay, so just kind of gives you a breakdown of where they're coming from and how they're getting these numbers. So let's zoom out of this poll. So if you look at this poll and you look at in the Real Clear Politics is up here. If you're looking at that number plus 1.7, that is giving you a clear indicator, okay, and they don't have a margin of error here, but that's giving you a clear indicator that you have Cortez ahead, okay? So we'll just put a D here and we'll say right now Cortez is leading, so that we'll just say that will go to the Democrat, okay? And all I'm doing right now is just showing you guys the races, and a lot of this information could change in the future, so we're not sure where it's going to go. But we can look at what we have now when it comes to the polls and kind of give an indicator of where we think things will go. Okay, so we have 2 polls here in Arizona. So we have Kelly and Masters. I did a video on Masters, so if you guys want to check that video out, I'll post a link. I'll post it up here. It's very important for you guys to focus on Masters because Masters is one of the politicians that's talking about privatizing Social Security, okay, which I think would be a bad idea. And so just so you guys know. So we have the Fox News poll, and we have this, whatever it is. I don't even know what that poll is. I've never even heard of that before, but we have a Fox News poll, so that's a pretty legitimate one. So the Fox News poll, that's 1,012 registered voters, and then we have likely voters with this other poll here, 1,074. Now, looking at the breakdown here, we're looking at Kelly up +4 in the first poll, and in that second poll, Kelly is up +8. So Kelly is doing he's doing pretty well. And considering that Kelly is a Democrat, and we're looking at a Fox News poll, which would tend to lean to the right, this is a pretty good sign that he's up +8 with this Fox News poll. So Fox News poll, Kelly, and then the next poll here, and then we have the interesting or the important number to look at, and that's +6, and that is Real Clear Politics average, okay? All right, let's move, and so we'll put this in the D column. So let's move to Georgia. Okay, now this Georgia race gets pretty interesting because we have a few different polls here. It looks like 4 different polls. We have, we'll start from the bottom here. We have Warnock +4, and then we have Warnock +3, and then we have Walker. Okay, let me do this again because I crossed over. Okay, so we have Warnock +4, Warnock +3, and then we have Walker +1, and then we have this Emerson poll at the very top here with Walker +2. Okay, so we have 2 Fox News poll, or a Fox News poll, and then a Fox 5 Insider poll. So just looking at the overall Real Clear Politics, they're looking at it as a +1. They don't put a margin of error here, but I mean, that's a tight race. If you're looking at a +1, that's a very, very tight race. And so right now, I'm actually going to put it on the Republican side just to make things interesting. Okay, right now it's a very tight race, but we're going to go ahead and put it in the Republican column, and we'll see where we'll look at the numbers at the end. That's the reason why I want to do this mainly, but that can go either way. All right. So looking at Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, this is Fetterman, and he's running against Dr. Oz. So we have 4 polls here, and starting from the bottom, +4 Fetterman, +13 Fetterman, +4 Fetterman, +5 Fetterman, and Fetterman average is +6.5. So he has a pretty commanding lead over all of these when it comes to these polls. Now, they want to do a debate, or at least Dr. Oz wants to do a debate. Now, Fetterman is saying he doesn't want to debate, okay? And I don't know if he's not being very clear, but is it health reasons? Is it not health reasons? He's not really letting us know exactly why he doesn't want to debate. But I'll tell you why he doesn't want to debate, because his numbers are up. His poll numbers are up. He won't benefit from a debate. Dr. Oz will definitely benefit from a debate if he does well, because he's already down in the polls. He has to do something to change people's opinion about him, and doing a debate is the best way for him to do that. Plus, he's a TV personality already. He knows how to talk to the camera and to really sell his plan or sell his story or whatever you want to say. He's a TV personality, so he's good at that. And so I think it's the right move for Fetterman to say, you know what, no, I don't need to debate. We don't need to debate right now because he has a lot more to lose than Dr. Oz does. Okay, so this race right here, this is a clear D. We'll put this as in the Democratic column. Because I don't really see much changing unless we do see a debate and Fetterman is a disaster in the debate, and then maybe we'll be talking about something else here. Wisconsin, okay, this is a very important race. This is a race between Barnes and Johnson. Okay, now I've talked about Senator Johnson before. He's an incumbent, but he is, and when we're looking at the polls, start from the bottom here, +7 Barnes, +4 Barnes, +2 Barnes, and then the Real Clear Politics average is +4.3. So Barnes is doing very well so far in these races. And I like to look, especially if there's a Democrat running, I always like to look at that Fox News poll, and that Fox News poll is a +4. Okay, so and the reason like I said, the reason I like to look at that is because they don't tend to sway towards Democrats. And so because of that, looking at that poll, that can give you a pretty good indicator of, if it's +4, that's really good for a Democrat to come out +4 in a poll that slants to the right. Okay. Now, and just so you guys know, all these polls, they slant different ways. Okay. Anybody can make a poll. I won't say make it exactly the way you want it, but you can do a good job of kind of singling out the people that you want to contact and try to shift a poll in your favor, if you understand what I'm saying. So we'll put this in the Democratic column. So looking at the overall breakdown here, we have 5 races. And out of those 5 races, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Democratic column. And we have 1, Georgia, that we'll say will go Republican. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right now when it comes to those races. Now, I did a map here just to show you guys kind of what it would look like as the breakdown, because like I said before, Democrats need to hold these 3 seats. Okay, they need to hold these 3 seats, and that will assure that they keep the 50 that they have. Republicans, they need to hold these 2 seats in order to keep the 50 that they have. But we know that if it's a 50-50 Senate, tiebreaker goes to the executive branch, and if the executive branch, if you have Democrats running the executive branch, and Vice President Kamala Harris will come in and break the tie. So the leadership would be on the Democratic side if everything stays the same. So if we have 50 Republicans and 50 Democrats, that's what we'd be looking at. Now, just looking at this breakdown here, if we have 4 already going to the Democratic column, that would mean these 3 would go for sure. So, and I'm just saying, you can break this down however you want. We do have them kind of split up. I actually gave Georgia to the Republican side, but that would be the only one. So just break it down how you want, but I'm just saying you need 3, Democrats need to hold 3 Senate seats, okay? If they hold 4 Democratic seats, or if they hold 4 seats, then looking at this map that I drew up here, they would be at 51. Okay, and I think you guys can see that. Hopefully, you can slide it over just a little bit there. So they would be at 51, and Republicans would be at 49. Now, this is very important, and the reason why this is important is because if you have a situation where Democrats have 51, well, that will help when it comes to that one vote, that Senator Manchin holdout vote. That will help if they have 51, because they can lose 1 vote and still have that 50 that they need to move forward with the reconciliation bill. So that's something that we're going to be watching very closely, because if the Democrats can go ahead and win 4 seats, they need to win at least 3 seats, but if they can win 4, they'll have that 51. Okay. Now, Republicans, on the other hand, if they're down to 49, they're not going to have the majority. But let's look at it this way, okay, because this could also happen. We could look at a situation where Arizona, and let's see, I want to look at some of the races that are really, really, they could go either way. I think the best bet for Republicans, if we're not looking at the seats here, we're going to add to the seats, okay? So adding to the seats, the best situation that we will be looking at, Wisconsin, potentially, and then we could see Arizona. We could see Arizona as well. We'll have to follow it. Like I said, Masters, it's a very, very dangerous seat there. And then we don't, if we look at those 2 there, then that would swing. That would swing to the Republicans having 51. Okay, so let's say the Republicans get 51 and the Democrats now have 49. Well, now we're looking at a really, really scary situation, because now you'll have Republicans in power in the Senate. And if they can if they can win the House, well, then both the House and the Senate will be run, the leadership will be Republican. And I know you're asking yourself, well, that doesn't mean anything. If the House is run by Republicans and the Senate's run by Republicans, you still have a Democrat in the presidency. So that would mean that any legislation would still have to go through the president. He would have to sign off on it. And if they wanted to try to overturn his veto, they're going to need a 2/3 vote, which is most likely not going to happen, right? So that's the short term. That's the next 2 years. But what happens after that? And that's what we need to focus on, because if we're looking at a situation where Republicans take over the Senate and Republicans take over the House and they start moving towards legislation, they want to move towards legislation when it comes to Social Security, and we get past the 2 years and we have the re-election and a Republican takes over the presidency, then guess what? Now we're looking at a really scary situation for people on Social Security, because now if you have leadership, if you have the Republicans taking over leadership of all branches, well, they can very easily pass a bill when it comes to Social Security to privatize Social Security, or do something when it comes to having it sunset for Social Security every 5 years or every 1 year. So it could be very, very dangerous. And remember the two seats. And let's go back here. It's important for us to focus on these two seats, because if we're talking about Wisconsin and we're talking about Arizona, both those seats, you have in Arizona, you have Masters, and he's been talking about privatizing Social Security, okay, openly talking about that. And then in Wisconsin, Johnson is talking about having some type of a sunset, okay, sunset after 1 year. That's what he wants to do. He wants to take it from the mandatory spending to discretionary spending, and that discretionary spending would mean that every year they're going to have to reevaluate Social Security and Medicare to see if they're still viable, and see if we need to move forward with Social Security and Medicare. It's really ridiculous when you think about it, because obviously we need to move forward, but the reason why they want to put it on the chopping block every year is because you can slowly chop away at the program, because it's either you don't have anything, and this is basically the argument. The argument would be you're not going to get anything if you don't agree. And when I say you, I mean basically, let's say Ron Johnson wants to move forward with making it discretionary spending. That means that Democrats and Republicans have to come together every year to try to figure out what to do with the program. And Republicans can very easily say, okay, we're going to cut this, this, and this. And Democrats can say, well, no, you're not cutting those things. And then guess what? They'll go back and forth. And when it comes to the 11th hour, they can just shut it down, because there's no funding. Just like when we fund for the budget, which they're going to be talking about, and probably they're going to be talking about it all September. So when they return, that's what you're going to hear a lot about. Just like that situation where we'll have a government shutdown, we can have that same situation when it comes to Social Security. And that's what Senator Ron Johnson wants to do. And so it's very crucial when it comes to those two races that we really need to watch those, because if they do swing towards the Republicans and the Republicans win those seats, now we're looking at a situation where, and we have to look at everything else. So we have to look at all the races and see if all the races go the same way that we think they're going to go now. But if it is a situation like that, it's going to be very, very bad for Social Security. And so, and I know some people think, well, you know, they're both not going to do anything when it comes to Social Security. There's two methods, and I've talked about these methods before. I'm not going to continue to talk about them, but there are two plans when it comes to the Democrats have a plan, the Republicans have a plan. The Democrats want to expand Social Security. The Republicans just want to focus on the trust fund. They don't want Social Security to lose the trust fund money. Okay, so that is the only thing that they're focused on. And then they also want to reform Social Security, privatize it, or do something, but they want to definitely make changes to Social Security. Okay, so that's where we are right now with the races. And I'm going to continue. At least once a week, I will keep you guys up to date when it comes to the different polls and maybe some of the different things that are coming out of these races. And we'll have to see, because like I said, there are a lot of races. And we'll look at it one more time. There are a lot of races that are open. But most of these races, we kind of have a good idea of where they're going. And so I will keep you guys up to date. So if any of these races, these strong, either strong Republican or strong Democrat races, if they change at all and the polls start to show, show something different, then we're going to move those races. We'll move them right down into the category down here, and we'll start looking at those polls a lot closer because it's very important. It's going to be very, very important to see what happens. Now, Democrats, they were way behind in the polls just 3-4 months ago. But now it looks like they're gaining steam, and you even have people like Mitch McConnell, who wants to be leader again, saying that, you know what, this is going to be tough. I don't know if Republicans are going to be able to take over the Senate. And that's leadership saying that. Maybe he's downplaying things. Maybe he's trying to really get the Republicans to rally up and go out and vote. I don't know. But at this point, the polls are showing the same thing. There's some really tough races, and I don't really see I don't really see Republicans being able to take over the Senate. I just don't see that happening. So we'll have to follow it and see where it goes. When it comes to the House, I think they have a really good chance of taking over the House. But when it comes to the Senate, I think it's going to be a big, big challenge. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys have any questions, post them down below. Remember, if you guys like content like this, make sure you hit that like button. It will let me know that I should be doing more content like this. All right, guys, I'll talk to you in the next one. Subscribe for more. Talk to you later. Bye.